coming along this morning. So we're at St Albans District Credit Union, who have managed to help you out this year. Would you mind just sharing with us why you came along here and what they've managed to do for you?
It's quite a long story actually. I was working in Devon and wanted to come back up to the south east for work and to live again, obviously. Managed to get a job in Watford. Came up and stayed with friends initially, and once I arrived, I actually lost the job.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah, unfortunately. So obviously had to start looking again, and I had to, while I was looking for work, I had to sign on and obtain unemployment benefits.
Okay, so where were you staying? You came up from Devon, so
we're staying with friends.
So you came up and stayed with friends. Then you lost your job that you thought you had.
Yeah.
So what happened? So that means you became homeless at that point, didn't it?
That's right, exactly. So I had to go through the local council offices to actually find a night shelter.
Okay.
For the homeless, and found one in Hempstead.
Cool.
Moved up there and was still looking for employment and carried on claiming benefits.
Yep.
And after 6 weeks, I had to be transferred up to a night shelter in St Albans.
And why did you have to get transferred?
Because we could only stay there for a maximum of 6 weeks. It's part of their policy.
Right. Okay.
And had to move up there, and the place is Open Door, which is obviously the night shelter in St Albans.
Yep.
And they introduced me to Credit Union, who were able to help me with acquire a loan to find accommodation, and they managed to give me a loan for the first month's rent and 6 weeks.
Right. So while you were in the shelter there, obviously you had two major issues there. It was you needed to find a job and you needed somewhere to live. So they suggested you come along to the credit union and they might be able to lend you some money to give you the deposit and the first month's rent on somewhere to live.
Certainly. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But on discussion with the local letting agent, the landlady was actually unhappy about me being unemployed and paying the rent.
Because she's nervous that you wouldn't be able to pay the rent. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I had to come back to the credit union for a further loan for 6 months' rent up front, which
right.
they were able to do, fortunately.
Yep.
So I managed to move into this accommodation. And hence I was able to start looking for employment.
So you now got a fixed place of abode, so it makes it easier for you to start looking for work.
Certainly does.
And when did all this happen?
I moved up in October last year.
Right.
Moved to Helen in November time.
Yeah.
Moved to Open Door in January.
Right.
I actually saw Credit Union in February and moved into the flat in beginning of March.
Wow, so that's all quite quick then, really.
Yeah, really.
So you got yourself somewhere to live in March, so you're still looking for work at that point?
It certainly was. I managed to secure a job in the end of June, but the only problem with that was I needed a car, so I had to come back to the credit union for a third time.
Wow.
To get a further loan to buy a car.
So the credit union then offered you the money to buy a car, which meant that you could then do your job, and you're still doing that job?
Certainly am.
So can you tell me, so from moving up here in October last year when you were really excited, coming up to the end of the year, so new year, new start and all of that, and then you lose your job, how did you feel at that point?
Absolutely devastated.
I can imagine.
Yeah, absolutely dreadful. And it's also the stigma of actually being unemployed and homeless.
And homeless, yeah.
Absolutely, and everything that entails as well.
Have you been homeless before?
No.
So that's a horrible place to be.
Absolutely dreadful. And to be honest, it's actually quite a struggle to actually get back on. That in itself is quite a struggle to get back on my feet again, let alone trying to find a job and somewhere to live.
Yes, yeah.
It's been quite a struggle.
So from going from that elation of thinking that you're starting a new job to actually then beginning to get back on your feet was 5 months really.
Absolutely.
To that March, and then when did you start your new job?
End of June.
End of June. So it took you another 3 or 4 months to actually get yourself into employment. So it's taken you 8 months from where you thought you were going to be starting a new job to actually get back to a similar position you thought you were going to be in.
Absolutely.
And all that heartache and stress in between times.
Yeah.
So what do you think of the credit union?
Absolutely brilliant. Couldn't be better. They've really gone out their way to be helpful. I really couldn't ask for more.
So have they done anything else for you other than obviously going through the process of helping you do a bit of budgeting and offering you the money at the different stages to help you get back on your feet. Have they offered any other support?
It's a moral and psychological support as well. They couldn't have been nicer.
That's brilliant. So thanks ever so much for sharing your story with us, because actually that's quite embarrassing and quite a painful place to be, and you're going out onto the big World Wide Web now. So thanks ever so much for sharing that, and I wish you every success for your future.
Thank you very much, and I hope it's helpful.
Yes, it will. Thank you very much. We've just had a little chat with Julie, and she's explained how fantastic you've been in terms of supporting her and lending her some money and giving her the opportunity to get her life back on track and get on her feet. But I need to ask the question, how on earth can you lend money, in fact lend money on 3 separate occasions, to somebody who is firstly homeless and secondly unemployed?
Well, the first question we must ask is what the application form, based on what the application form tells us, and we need to establish the trustworthiness of the individual and their ability to repay the loan, which we can get from the income and expenditure on the application form. We will check out the background. We need copies of bank statements, etc. And in Julie's case, we checked with the Nursing and Midwifery Council that she had no outstanding cases against her, so that wouldn't restrict her from gaining employment in the future based on her qualification as a registered nurse.
Brilliant. So you're actually making real world decisions in the real world for real people rather than basing your decisions on a computer.
There's a director of the credit union and a loans officer who deals with loans when people apply. We want to be the human face of banking, and we want to be able to help people as much as possible. But only on the basis that they have the ability to repay, because we're not looking to get them into further debt that would give them problems.
So your part of your underwriting process was the fact that Julie was eligible for benefit, and therefore the loans that you made to her were affordable on the income that she was receiving from benefits?
Yes, especially the housing benefits, which would pay for most of the rent that she had to spend, as it were, to pay to the landlord.
Brilliant. So Julie was introduced to you from the shelter in St Albans. Open door. She came along, sat down with you, explained her circumstances. You suggested that you could help, and you gave her some help. What else have you done for her, would you say, in terms of wider support, other than just accepting her as a good risk for the credit union to lend her some money?
To obtain her employment, I went with her to Home Instead and sat down to discuss through the various issues such as references and what have you, and subsequently I managed to establish where a small car at a very reasonable price was available that would enable her to undertake the job, because if she didn't have a car she wouldn't get the job.
Yep.
And so we've taken it from there, really.
Brilliant. So you actually help us source a car as well at a reasonable price?
Yeah.
Okay, and just give us a quick 20 seconds on your background, Arthur.
I'm a retired bank manager, spending 36 years of a career in banking, and I'm now a volunteer director of the credit union, as all the directors are, and so I'm able to spare the time now to sit down with people and to give them time, which you usually can't find in clearing banks anymore because of the structure, the way that they're structured and the costs involved. But I can do it now for free with people, and that is my social conscience, if you like, that I love to do that.
That's brilliant. Well, thanks ever so much for your time, Arthur, and we'll see you again soon.